She's done a huge amount of policy advising on both sides of the Atlantic, and she's been involved in a lot of collaborative networks, including things from the National Research Foundation in the US, and she's also written very many books about graduate education, so she's extremely well qualified to talk about this. And unusually, she really does know about these on both sides of the Atlantic, and I think that's really helpful, because sometimes you get people who come from another system and they tell you about the other. They don't understand it in the other system, and the rest of does. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. It's a pleasure always to come to the UK Council of Graduate Education, and I remember I was speaking there, and I must admit, I don't know, maybe 50 years ago, and it was in Florence. So, before I start, I want to ask, I realize there are also people from other countries. I'm curious, is there anyone from Germany here? Oh, great. So I will talk about Germany, so please chip in. I noticed from the conference proceeding there are some people from Australia, but I'm focusing on Europe, so forgive me, not focusing on you. From the US, I know there is one person, should be, how many are from the US? One. Okay, so please support. And I was noticing, this is a young crowd when I go and US they are much older and they're like me, you know, many is my age. So I'm delighted to notice that the majority are very young graduate deans, directors of graduate school, managers. Great. So, what I will just a brief background where I'm coming from. It was really said, you know, I had quite a long professional life already. So I have done in the center, I direct the Center for Innovation Research and Graduate Education. We have done the first national PhD career path. And now around the country in the US, like the US Council of Graduate Schools, really I'm very delighted picking up that it's necessary to do career path assessment and surveys, and not just 1 or 2 years after completion of the doctorate, but really you need to do it 10 or even longer years out because of the postdoc issue. I will speak about postdoc. I know that's an issue in Europe, and I'm very concerned about it, because in this case, you could have learned from the US. So you see those. Then in the center, we have done 5 actually, I did international research workshop conference. They were modeled after the US model of the physicists, the open conferences, where we come together and really work and prepare, but also socialize together. And I will start from there. And I've done a number of research, everything around graduate education, including taboos in doctoral education, which is now one of my current lovely project, because I think towards the end of a professional life, you can really address those topics which no one dares really talk about. Okay, so today I will really start about, I take what happened before 2008, 2005, and then up to today. I will remind you what are really common external forces which impacted doctoral and graduate education, because they are impacting all countries, Australia as well as the US and the UK. And my opinion and my argument is these bring us and our converging forces then on the micro level in doctoral education. So I will mention that. And then I will talk about what are the effects. And I see so are there still differences, what are there? And my key arguments about that structures are converging certain ones, but also challenges and really problems are converging too. So that is, and there are still differences. Okay, so our first Center for Innovation in Graduate Education Research Conference was really in 2005, and we asked, so what are the forces and what are the forms of change that shape doctoral education worldwide? We brought together people from around all 6 continents. We tried to keep it reasonably small. That means around 40 people, but always 1/3 are early career researchers, which means advanced doctoral fellows, students, we'll talk about. One doesn't talk in Europe in certain countries about students, but candidates. And my Australian colleagues are adamant about, they're not students, but candidates. And I'm saying in US, we don't treat them as pupils. They start out as maybe students, but become junior colleagues. But the term is still students, and they don't take it as an insult, as I think sometimes European doctoral candidates, fellows do. So we brought together the conference participation were like you, graduate deans, directors of graduate studies, but also heads or project director of national research councils and researchers around higher education, doctoral education, and at that time there were not too many, a few. But so among the graduate deans we had a really, which is important, a great variety of disciplines, from astronomy to biochemistry to comparative biology and so on. So that's important that we not just focus on education, but lab sciences. These were the criteria we started to give us, to us to come up with what's happening. So here I come, this is what we came up as an analysis, and I added a current moment. So you know this, I mean, you are the audience, there's nothing new. But what is really what has happened is that the economic theory of the knowledge economy has been really embraced by governments around the world. As social scientists, we talk often about neoliberalism economics. And in that, the whole idea about innovation and technical changes are really seen as leading to economic growth. And thus, governments have invested in many countries for a while, but then they retreated money too, but invested it differently, into graduate or postgraduate education, as you say, because of seeing economic growth. And this brought really an emphasis by government suddenly on postgraduate education, while before they didn't care much. It was funding of higher education, but generally. Now, also what came into being, starting from the Jean-Jacques world-class ranking, that government started out of prestige and very utilitarian, because they thought if we have world-class universities in our nation, we can attract investment around universities, very much like Silicon Valley was the model. And so we can have job creation and economic growth. So that's another force which both you in Europe, UK, we in the US experience. Now what I added is really, which we knew from globalization theory, and I here would quote what said the Hungarian sociologist Bauman, globalization brought winners and losers. We knew it theoretically, but we didn't focus on that. We have quite some losers. And these were the people who were not able to be mobile, who didn't have the training in technology, and this was the big force. And this is now why this is a simplistic explanation, but an important one, which we as social scientists should have foreseen. Nationalistic movements in many countries, in Europe and in the US. Now, what has happened in the meantime? I want to give you the context. We had an enormous increase of doctoral education. And I highlighted in blue the countries which are in Europe. So Germany, the UK, and then US. But look at China. Chinese also sent their postgraduate students on the master's and doctoral level to both the US, Europe, and Australia and New Zealand. But internally, they really have increased enormously the master's and doctoral level education. Just look at this and become aware of what's going on. We often forget, specifically in the US, where we have tons of Chinese students. Now, I said one of the effects of those macro globalization innovation policy phenomena is the increase. But then we have all countries, Europe and the US, is the linking of university closer to industry. Because what's important and government really encourages is the knowledge transfer. We even have, and I know in Germany, where I'm originally from, you still can hear my accent, and in the US, like NSF and NIH, have 70 grant and your National Grant Council tracks of research grants which are specifically for startup companies. So as a professor, you can both apply to the traditional research, but you also can apply for leading companies who bringing it to development. And in the US, and I know in Germany also you have what's called, in my university, it's very entrepreneurial in that sense, Center for Commercialization. And try to help you. We know in the meantime that money from royalties doesn't bring much, on the contrary. But there's still hope that universities owning 50% of the startup companies and they're building buildings on campus, so-called incubator buildings, that the university will gain money from it. So that's also an interest how postgraduate education and research and university hang together still closely. And the key is income generating. Now, what we see, and I will focus in the rest of my talk a lot on this, we have policy, in social science we call it policy mimicry, policy imitations. But that means we look at each other, and we, I mean, is the National Research Council policy agencies, and the flagship programs in all countries around the world, including Australia, not all countries, but say those countries I will focus on, Germany, the European Commission, US, are very similar. And those flagship programs, what has changed for Europe, are really coming by funding from grants. And when you look and you know from the ITN, the innovation training programs from the European Commission, very proudly say this is bottom-up initiative. And I would smile a little bit because in the US, we don't have a ministry, it's very decentralized. So in that sense, it was always bottom-up because the federal government doesn't influence higher education other by grant agency. So you can say bottom-up because as a professor, you don't need to apply for a research grant. But in the US, you better do because what's often not known, our regular salary is a 9-month salary. We don't have 12 or 13 like in Germany. So you better apply for research grants to pay yourself over the summer. So that's why through the research grant mode and the comes from those and are very similar flagship programs, and I will go into detail. And it's really to create a versatile researcher for innovation and so on. Now, what we also have, because kind of the world knows more about each other and governments encourage mobility, we have more doctoral candidates, more postgraduate students available. So every country, also in university, wants, of course, the best minds. So the ITN, which we heard this morning, of course they want the best minds also. So there is really agreements and competition. I've done in our center, we have done several assessments of this network, and I found very interestingly, in Germany, my German colleague, the early Graduiertenkollegs, which were networks, and then the graduate schools, which are different, and I will talk a bit different than American or Australian graduate schools. They're more like field-specific research clusters. They really, when they collaborate, we did one on urban ecology in the University of Seattle, in Washington and Berlin, and they were saying we collaborate, but just underneath there is a lot of competition. So it's under the skin, but it's there. So I think we also need to be aware, we talk about collaboration, but how deep and when does it stop? Okay, so this is the different networks. I talked about world class, and some countries are more forceful and more open about it than others. And the German government, in their excellence initiatives, doesn't hide it. It wants to be world known again for research. So all goes into it, a lot of money. But you have here in Europe the Marie Curie, and we heard this morning about it. And I actually did an assessment of a master's and a doctoral program. And in the US you have, which was formerly called the Integrated Graduate Research Training Network, IGATS. They're called now National Research Training. So very much like IPM, so things are changing and converging. Quality standards. They are now introduced in Europe and elsewhere. What is newer is really because of the enormous increase in international students, which brought about in the UK, was enormous, but also in Germany, quite an increase of international students in the last 10 years, really brought about that countries are now saying, wow, we want our people back. So there are really policies to bring them back home. And I think very diplomatically, as often the US and West Coast people are, saying brain circulation. You know, they go away, but it's not lost because they have families still in countries and they come from time to time. So actually countries have quite interesting policies, including China, just to give those who got their doctorate or postdoc elsewhere, now to come for a short time. And maybe they like it, and I hope that the family ties will keep them back. Or they can live in Beijing, which is quite difficult because you need residence status in major cities in China. India, doesn't need residence statements, but they have similar programs. Okay, so this is trends which we all share. Now, what I say because of all this, we quite see overall an effect that means that more is asked from our postgraduate students, specifically doctoral students, the next generation of researchers than ever before. Not only do they need those academic skills, which were always there, nothing new, but research ethics, responsible conduct and research, now is everywhere. So you cannot just go around, in Germany, the big scandal about what's called when you copy without quoting. Right. But then also falsifying data. And if you do interviews, you really need to have a whole ethics protocol. So for our international doctoral students in China or India or elsewhere, they're very astonished that they cannot just go and interview people, but they need to really say where is the data stored, how is the so on is can be detected, and so on. What is in addition everywhere going on to the academic skill is really quite a number of professional research competencies. And the UK and Australia has made quite a start into that. This comes if you need people for innovation, and if you need people outside the university, you need to teach them also other skills, which are very common in business, government, so on, and profit. Third is because of mobility, of international connection, there is now a need for intercultural competences. And watching, I'm again see, I often read on Australia has been, the University of Melbourne has developed quite a lot more research coming out of the UK on this. The US is it's a big country, it's a little slower than that, I would say. Now, let me just quickly remember when I go into detail. I started out broad and I go into detail between Europe and the US, how the past was. Now, reform was done from the ministry, it was top down, as I explained in the US, but out of necessity, if you call it, was bottom up. Now, doctoral education was not something governments were really keen on talking about. There was no formalized admission process, at least not in, I'm not sure about the UK, but at least not in Germany at all. Just one can go to Austria or anywhere. You go to the professor where you've done your master's and you ask, I'd like a Canada doctorate with you, a doctorate with you, and then that person decides. And there's no, in Germany, you don't need to register, you just do it. And then at the end, you only need to register when you want to do your exam. The fact is that in Germany, data, other than number of doctoral degrees, is extremely hard to get by, but they're moving in the direction. Then there was no, you always had to have a master's, and I think in Europe, still in many countries, you cannot start after the bachelor, only some. No structured program, no coursework for the doctorate. One supervisor, and in the UK, I know, in Germany, in I think many, I know in Canada and many other European countries, you had external reviewers of the dissertation, and also were there in the UK, you would call it Viva, in Germany, the Review-Rosum, or whatever the dissertation defense was called. Not so in the US. I already talked about Germany, but specifically you need to understand there was no system of a bachelor and master's degree. That really came with the Bologna process, and it exists only since about, now we have about 7-8 years. Most German universities now have a bachelor degree offered and a master's degree and a doctorate, but in many fields like in engineering, you more or less always do like you did before, it's just bachelor and master's. That's the diploma. As I said, no fixed beginning, so there was also no knowing how many drop out, which is a concern as graduate deans we do have. Not just because it's expensive and so-called if you think of inefficiency, but we talk really more about personal, what means it personally when you don't complete, and we heard before the doctoral students' worries, but we also think about did they gain anything, but still what it means if they're not finished. We need to think about it. quality assurance was just in the dissertation, and the defense was nothing else, thinking about the learning environment, structure, and so on. And women in Europe, specifically in Germany, were really fairly few compared to the US. I wanted, and I put in a few things about the US, because I realize when I go elsewhere, outside, people often misunderstand the US doctoral education. Specifically, they think, they treat them as student is so structured. In Germany, they say it's again verschult, it's like high school. This is really incorrect, because it has, the coursework means, well, let's start at the beginning. You have quite a selective admission in all programs, master's and doctorate. At the doctor level, only about 25% are accepted. It depends in which university. The very top research universities, we only accept about 25% of all applicants. The graduate record examination, which is a national examination in certain fields, it's taken very seriously, and they have even special ones in business, in chemistry, so on. Others, it's the general ones. The grade point average, the GPA of undergraduate, is important because, as you will, I will say later, the graduate school, the general administrative and educational unit which cares about postgraduate education sets the minimum limits on top of which each program, each department can set their own quality assurance or requirements, and like a 3.0 is a minimum for acceptance in a master's program, in a doctorate and maybe even higher. So that's why grade point average. The letters of recommendations are very important, and they are looked at quite carefully. In addition to the individual letter, the student writes first on why are they doing a doctorate, second also about their past life, and third the writing examples. And why then we have coursework is also in many fields in the US, we accept people from outside the narrow area. So that means in material science, we would accept someone who has a master's degree in chemistry, or in biology, or in physics. But then we need to make sure that they really understand the field. So there are certain courses they may take, but if they've taken before, they can opt out. And we as a committee, in the beginning, we sit together and also see what the students brings with them. And after 1 year, we again as a committee sit together and see what does the student still need. So when I say the coursework, it's really tailored to the individual students, but with the goal that they understand the field or the discipline. And it's flexible. It's not this verschulte, this totally school-like curriculum, as all my German colleagues and students specifically say. So when I say after first year, then there is, in the sciences, they call it a prelim, so they know they have knowledge, whatever, physics, chemistry. We in the social science in higher education, where I'm from, we have a first year review. And it's really quite common that we say, at that review, we need to have a tough heart and say to the students early, it's not just, that's important, that's not just one advisor, but the committee, or two at least. Maybe a doctorate is not something you really want. Have you thought about it? Do you really like to write? Do you like to think creatively? Do you come up with research questions and to do this early and not drag them on later on? There are enough studies which found that often doctoral students are kept because they're needed for TAs, for lab assistants, but not for their own. So an early attrition is useful then, not a late attrition. Okay, then comes the dissertation proposal development. General exam, it varies by if you're social science or science, when, and the dissertation research, and then the final defense. And only in really the sciences, there is the postdoc. I'm really, really surprised how European agencies and universities really propose the postdoc as the next step. This is the biggest trap in terms of employment, and you now have a postdoc mountain in Europe. We had this before, so we really discouraged the postdocs in the social science generally and humanities generally, unless you change some major subfield. And only for science and engineering, if you really know you want to stay in the university and not go out to industry. But otherwise, it's a trap, and you get older and your life is on hold. Saying this, in the US, you say the time to degree is 5 to 7 years. It includes more or less a master's degree. And then you really have a knowledge of the field and not just one research method, the one you use for your dissertation, but the whole gamut of it for your discipline, for your field of study. And also, we say that even if you come in with a master's, your committee, your dissertation, main dissertation advisor wants to get to know you. So you will take maybe stay longer. So that issue of 2 years masters, and then as I've learned in the ITN, then you have the 3-year doctorate. Well, you have the requirement of mobility in the European Commission and the ITN. So they have not done the masters with those professors who are there. So then in 3 years, getting everything done is, in my opinion, and in reality, what I've seen is nearly impossible. Brief, don't forget the US, no ministry. You have the graduate council, which is the key policy area. These are professors who were selected by the academic senate, who work with the graduate school, who coordinates that, and they set the minimum requirement, and then the programs have their own freedom to set above that. But that means that then each university can say, we have this standard, that high. So that's why you differentiate between research universities and maybe teaching intensive universities. It always had been market-driven. In Europe, that's now only the case. And what is often not understood, the curriculum in a doctoral or master's program is really structured after learning theory. So it's really developmental. And it starts that the person is from, if we say now learning theory, is a novice and becomes more and more a junior colleague. And it goes up. It's different in the third semester than in the first. So I talked about there are more than one quality assurance mechanism internally, not externally. Only the institution externally is assured. I think that's also misunderstood outside the US. The committee is chosen by the student, and one can change the main dissertation advisor, who's still very important, and that's not a tragedy. And it's actually encouraged to change maybe after the first year if the chemistry doesn't work. Or if the student said, I really don't want to do research on magnetism, I rather want to do research on wind energy, something like that. And then other campus units are really very much involved. Now, narrowing in. What are we seeing if we take the flagship programs, and that's one of my major arguments, where we really, Europe and the US converge, we have the same type of flagship programs. I have here by the European Commission, the Innovation Training Network, the German graduate schools, by the Excellence Initiatives and the US NSF-funded IGOT, or now National Research Framework. They are fully funded fellows for the duration of 3 years, but in Europe, for Bologna process, 3 years is required. In the US, it's 3 years of those programs, and then the 2 years the main advisor or something, or they teach. But it's kind of fully funded, but not as a fellowship in the US all 5 years. Because we also believe teaching and a research assistant is a very important professional skill. They're interdisciplinary and theme-based. They're structured programs. Faculty, the professors collectively make a decision. I'm not sure actually if that's the case in Germany. Maybe my German colleague can help me. They're organized in cohorts. They have an explicit connection to non-academic world, like in the ITN, as the secondment, as I learned. And I learned from the one I analyzed that Rebecca was talking about, the students said that they really there came into their voice and became more independent researchers. So very important. What is not yet very much really understood, that English medium of instruction, what it does to others. And I will talk a little bit about the professional development activities in all of them, and they all have international components, more in Europe so than in the US. Now I want to go even, narrower than lessons learned from both of them. Now, there need to be really a better explicit effort to admit a diverse student body, because not just those who are traditionally look like they're successful. That's in both I've seen a key issue. The balance between interdisciplinary and disciplinary knowledge is tough. We have learned best if we start and ask and team teach, how do we know what we know and what do we regard as evidence? And professional competencies taught as independent workshops are not as good and successful as really taught with the content of the research. And I think specifically in the UK, when they're all, or in Australia, do it separately, it doesn't make sense to me. Better than nothing. 3 years is unrealistic, I think. Therefore, the postdoc in Europe now. Orientation, extremely important. We learned it in those countries because I said they form really team forming, but also reduce competition, which is in the beginning. International experience important, but they need to be really prepared. All those European Commission and US really hope that these flagship programs have a spillover effect and change postgraduate education in the institution. What we learned is it only does it if at least 2 professors from the same department or field are present. Otherwise, one alone, one voice is not heard among colleagues. The same is the more local students are involved in the network, the more the voice gets out what's going on in this flagship program. And then the chance that it spills over in other doctoral programs will have a more structured and a more thought-through way is greater. And still, why all programs say we really want non-academic careers on the same level that don't seem to be accepted by the academic staff. So, a silent paradigm shift really has occurred in doctoral education. It's a community of practice, not just one supervisor, but multi-level, and I've written about it and you can hear details. Now, what addition has changed in Europe is English is the language, but not at all. Fast track in some European university ethics integrated. The UK is quite known for the roadmap of careers. And the UK also has an increase in professional doctorates in the US too. You have now a doctorate of audiology, doctorate of physical therapy, and so on. Here are my key arguments. We see converging structures and challenges in how reform is initiated or change. Since we don't have a ministry, we talk about change. And that means via grant and not, so no one is forced to do it, but then you don't get money. The elite forms look very much alike. That's really where we have the most converging. However, because of that, these elite flagship programs are very well paid, and Rebecca talked about that, how different it is for us also as professors to juggle that one earns $30,000, the other $15,000 or euros. We have now very well functioning, very well funded and cared for doctoral candidates, fellows, and we have those traditional doctoral students, and I call them run-of-the-mill doctoral programs. So is this massification of doctoral education, new stratification? Question mark? Workforce preparedness is the word of the day in both countries, and doing research out of curiosity seems to be forgotten. Intellectual risk-taking, all countries and programs talk about it, but in reality, those same agencies who want this restrict it by times. You don't have time to make mistakes where you really learn innovation. So we all have the same challenges. In addition, we have now understood how important the learning environment is, and a focus on that. And what we see is a really new focus that traditional universities or higher education institutions who didn't offer doctoral programs are now offering applied doctoral programs. In Germany, the Fachhochschulen, and in the UK, I think the Radcliffe Institution. What I said before, in Europe, what you have now the employment issue at the postdoc phase. We had this in the US before, and I talked about it. Also, we have a very common quality assurance model: input, throughput, output, outcome, social impact. Future steps, unresolved issue. Do we have good research on the added values of international mobility and hosting international students? We have nationalistic voice coming out loud. At the same time, we in higher education talk about global internationalization of higher education. I think Van der Wele was writing recently also about it and talked how in the Netherlands it's quite vocal. Do we know about the effects of the English medium instruction on power relationship between the students and professors? Do we understand actually to what extent institutional change and changes, structural changes in the doctoral program really result in true changes and quality improvement? We think so, but do we really know? Is it the discipline, the epistemology, and the power relationship in any doctoral program which are more permanent? I think we need to do far more research, and like the one before, I would say to the studies on students, we really need to compare more with other disciplines and see what's there. And will we see more emphasis on the advisor-advisee relationship? And I think we will see more, I don't know, we will see more changes in postgraduate education. In the US, we can see already there's more emphasis now on master's programs, on professional masters and self-sustaining masters. We need and really pay more attention to social justice issues. Social movements are really bubbling everywhere. And I think we also in postgraduate education need to think about that. Are we aware of the resentment of speaking English in programs for our most educated people in our nations? I was astonished last year at 2 places in Europe I would not have expected, where when I gave a talk, they said, I'm really angry at this English speaking, and the person on the street cannot understand what they're saying. And we paying taxpayers money for that? So I'm just saying this will be something we need to be aware of it. What will be your role as a graduate dean, as a graduate manager in this current situation? And I leave it up to you and say, can we learn from each other? Thank you.